Hi Ventura, welcome to a special edition of our Ventura Voices podcast. I'm Bill Ayub, your host for this episode, and I'm here with our new police chief, David Dickey, to talk a little bit about what his vision is for the future of public safety in Ventura, and for you to have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about him. Chief Dickey comes from a very long line of service to the community, and he just completed a grueling competitive process that was a nationwide recruitment for the police chief position. It is such an incredibly important position in our community that we really had to take a look around the country to get the best person for the position. And then after the process, we realized that that person was right here in our own backyard. Former assistant chief with the Ventura Police Department, many years of service. Welcome, Chief Dickey.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What was your pathway that led you to where you are today? It's been a long journey.
It has been. So I was born and raised here in Ventura County, actually growing up in South Oxnard, out kind of by Point Magoo. Older brother who's also in policing, actually worked for the local sheriff's department. Mom and dad actually worked out in that area. My dad worked out at the paper mill out there in Port Hueneme for about 43 years. So that's kind of where my journey started. Spent a lot of time growing up, bouncing back and forth between Oxnard and Ventura. My best friend actually grew up in the Dakota track up off the avenue. And I've jokingly said this, I'm glad that cameras weren't around back then because it would have captured my brother, my friend Randy, and I kind of wreaking havoc on the hills above North Ventura Avenue. He's actually in policing as well, so kind of a weird world that all three of us ended up doing the same profession. But my dad and mom were very pro public safety. My dad came from a bit of a rough background, really rough upbringing, and as he kind of matured into adulthood, he was just a big advocate for policing. He always was, and I also say that after Sunday church in Ventura, we'd go home and watch Adam 12. And that had a huge impact on me and my brother as well. My dad was one of his favorite shows. We watched the reruns, of course. But it just had a huge impact on me, and I always thought it was an honorable profession. And my dad spoke highly of it. My mom did as well, and that's how we ended up in the profession.
So tell us about your pathway. You started at another police department, actually two other police departments before coming to Ventura. Tell us about that journey, and then what drew you to Ventura, and then kept you here for almost 30 years.
So I did start my career in a different county, actually, being born and raised over in South Oxnard. In the late 90s, as I graduated high school from Oxnard High School and went to Ventura College for a little over a year, I was looking to get into the profession. I wanted to be a reserve officer. Back then, not a lot of agencies were hiring. So this is back in 1994. I actually used to volunteer at a summer camp up in Mount Pinos area of Fraser Park. I worked in a kitchen at a youth camp for usually about a month every summer. And the person that ran the kitchen was a lieutenant from Bakersfield PD. And he'd volunteer his time up there as well. Long story short, he kind of guided me into putting myself into a police academy. We call it self-sponsoring. No one was hiring, and it would be best if you could put yourself through the academy back then. So that's what I did. Graduated the academy up in Visalia. That was one of the only academies in the state that would allow that at the time. Ended up coming back home, was looking to get hired on as a reserve down here. I was only 20 years old at the time. Was home here for about a week and a half. I was actually working as a janitor at the time and going back to school. And I ended up getting a call from one of the officers that worked at my academy who ran a youth intervention program, what we would know as 21 Jump Street. And I actually got a call back to go back up and work in Visalia. Our agencies quit doing those programs years ago, regardless of what pop culture shows. We don't do those anymore, but I worked up there for almost a year, working 21 Jump Street. Wanted to come home. Actually, at the time, had met my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, but wanted to come home. That was a big part of it, to be honest with you. And came back home here. Had a friend of the family that I went to church with the family. He was actually Bob Johnson over at Port Hueneme PD. You might remember Bob.
Sure.
From your time over there.
I do.
And Bob kind of helped introduce me to Chief Hopkins at the time. Worked over there for a couple years. And after I was there for a couple years, I was looking for a bigger department, but I wanted to stay local. Ventura PD had a great reputation of being kind of an innovative, progressive agency. At the time, a fun city to work. a broad variety of things to do. It attracted me here. I did a couple ride-alongs. They treated me like family, and the rest is history. So in 1997, I started here, and I've been here ever since.
So it's kind of an interesting pathway. Our former police chief, Darren Schindler, also worked at Port Hueneme as a police officer, and then transferred over to the city of Ventura and worked a career here.
And I believe you worked there for a brief time too as a reserve officer, if I recall correctly.
It's true. It's true. I did. You mentioned reserve officer a few times. You had done it. I had done it. Darren had done it. Tell the listeners what exactly it is. We don't hear much about reserve officers today, but in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, it was a very popular program, here and around the state. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so a reserve officer program in its essence is basically someone that puts themselves through a similar academy to a traditional police academy, usually a few less hours, and they get hired on in a reserve capacity. They're not full-time, obviously. Typically, they don't get paid. Some details do get paid depending on what they're doing and what city they were in. But you basically come in and you supplement the actual police officers that work there. You'll do everything from booking duties to actually being a ride-along with them. It gives the agencies a chance to see you and your work product, your character, your ability to do the profession. So it's actually kind of a really good recruitment tool as well, kind of get your foot in the door, so to speak. I never actually quite got the reserve program because when Visalia picked me up, it was actually in a full-time capacity. But it was a great program. In fact, when I was in Hueneme, I think we had about 23, 24 officers. And I think at the time we had about 18 reserves. So it was a big supplement for the agency. It allowed you to really provide more effective policing services, and clearly at a much lower, if not any cost at all. So it was a great program.
Yeah, and modern liability and issues of the day have really almost eliminated reserve programs. I don't think Ventura has a reserve program any longer.
We do not. It just wouldn't make sense for us right now.
Yeah, it's a real shame. As you said, a great opportunity to take a look at prospective employees and then supplement our workforce and allow people that want to contribute to the community in a part-time manner to do so. I've said more than a few times to different people that your history of experience, your background, the things you had done over years to prepare for a potential police chief role, and I say potential because there's only one police chief. It's contingent upon opportunity, your good health and your willingness to serve in that way. But I've said that your background is kind of a template for someone to follow. Tell us about your background and how you've prepared yourself to be the leader of a large city police department.
I appreciate that. So I think probably the best thing I can say overarching is a growth mindset that was instilled in me, not just from my family, but reinforced by a lot of mentors of mine in the profession, specifically here at the Ventura Police Department. So I never in my life ever thought I would be sitting in this chair as the police chief. I'm sure most of us that have occupied some of these higher roles all feel that way. I think that's a healthy thing. My goal was to be a really good police officer and maybe get into leadership in some capacity one day. But I started off as a patrol officer here. I worked many years in patrol. I've done all the traditional policing things. I was a field training officer. I worked on our SWAT team for almost 2 decades of my career. I have worked a broad variety of assignments, everything from the communications center, our dispatch center as a supervisor when I was a corporal. I've worked detectives. As a sergeant, I was a sergeant for 13 years, which is a really long time typically for a sergeant. Had the opportunity to work a broad variety of assignments in that capacity. At the same time I was doing that, I was also working on my education. Again, I came into this profession at 20, so I think I had about 30 college credits when I started. I've now been fortunate with a lot of support from my family to work through my education all the way up through my master's degree. About 6 years ago when I was finally awarded that from the University of San Diego. Tons of professional training and development. But quite frankly, to be honest with you, Bill, this comes back to something that's really healthy about our department. It has been since I've been here, which is leadership is about people. You can go get all the great degrees, you can get all the education, and all those things are very helpful. They help me daily in everything that I do. But when it comes to the essence of leadership and what makes people effective is through the years, mentors of mine reminding me that we absolutely have to put people first if we want to be successful in our leadership journey here. And I've worked with amazing people, both above me, beside me, and those that I worked, that I was their supervisor. It's been a great run. This is a great department with a lot of great people, and I've really benefited from them in this path.
So in looking back on your experience, and you mentioned formal education, you went to college, you have a graduate degree. You got those things after you've been doing the job full time. So kudos to you for
Thank you.
That extra.
Kudos to my wife for putting up with it.
For sure. For sure. We all need a support system. What would you say to a prospective employee of the Ventura Police Department to prepare themselves for a career in law enforcement?
I think there's two tracks. Policing needs high character people, end of story. I mean, that is like, you must be a person of character. We all make mistakes. That's not what it's about. It's about whether or not you are truly living a life of high character that's based in integrity. That is foundational to everything that we do. If we lose that, we lose the public trust. So we don't hire people like that. That is first and foremost. The other things that we're looking for clearly would be a combination of life experience along with formal education. We can weigh one more than the other just depending on the individual person that's putting in. But you want to find someone who's of good moral character, integrity-based, has the ability to engage people on a level that's effective in solving problems. But even beyond that, I think you and I talked about this before, but somebody who is here to serve others, period. When you get to that point, we're public servants, and I know you're passionate about that. I am as well. A heart of a public servant is putting people first in the community, even self-sacrificially if needed. That's the ideal candidate, and we've done a really good job of recruitment here of those type of people for our department. A broad variety of people from across our community, well represented at our department in this general area. So we're doing really well in that regard.
That's fantastic. And let me ask you, as the new chief, and you're a bit unique in that you come from within the department. You've been at various leadership levels, including the number 2 assistant police chief for the last 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
So arguably, many of the programs and initiatives, processes, much of the hiring, you've had a hand in, and your fingerprints are on. As the chief, it's different though, and we've talked about that. You go into the office and there's nothing in the drawers.
I'm still looking for the instruction manual. You told me it was there, and I haven't seen it yet.
No how-to manual. What's your first? You've been in about 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. Your first order of business, and that's going to take a little bit of time. What are your priorities, and how do you plan on carrying those out?
So I've told you and anybody else that's asked me, I'm a very people-centered, culture-driven leader. I really believe that the heart of public service relies on a healthy organizational culture that is willing and ready to go serve outside the walls of the police department. So my first thing that I've done so far is I am, in the first 90 days, rather ambitious, I'm learning. We have about 235 total people that work at the police department, 190, 91-ish total employees. I'm meeting with every one of them one-on-one to kind of get a temperature check, so to speak. What's going well, what's not, what are some things that we consider doing differently. That's taking up a lot of my schedule. It's not a 5-day-a-week schedule right now. It's a little bit more than that to get on top of that. But beyond that, some of the information I'm getting from them is going to help me stabilize our supervisory ranks. So we're in the process right now of filling in the assistant chief position, commander position, and also our sergeant and corporal ranks, which are all leadership positions. We should have those wrapped up in about the next 2 weeks or so. That's a big priority for me right now, is stabilizing those leadership ranks so that we can kind of start to gear up for some of the bigger initiatives that are coming in the next few months that we hope to initiate.
And that's fantastic, and we look forward to seeing those promotions. It's exciting within the department. We do kind of cheekily say, what do cops hate more than the way things are? And that's change.
Exactly.
Right? Long-term goals for the department. Ventura enjoys, and the residents of Ventura enjoy, a safe community. We were talking with the city council last year, and the big law enforcement topic was e-bikes and fireworks. And that's a really great thing for our community. It's not to say that we're untouched by crime. And certainly if we let our foot off the pedal, that crime would not, take root here and really swell out of control. What are your strategies for, long-term keeping the community safe?
So one of the big things we hope to move into about the 4 or 5 month mark is a full strategic planning revamp at our department. So we've operated off a strategic plan now in my time in leadership for about the last 20 years, maybe more, actually going back a little bit more than that. I think Chief Pat Miller was the first one to really implement that here, and Chief Corney has done a couple, and then Chief Schindler did as well. So our plan is it's a very basic concept. We kind of have for lack of better words, a diagram for this, but it's basically as simple as ask the community what's important, and then ask the experts, how do we solve this? And I'm a very simple person, so I think following that again is our goal. So we'll simply engage on the highest, deepest levels possible in the community, across the entire community. Tell us what's important from your police department, what you need from us. We'll prioritize those things, and then we'll work with our internal staff, from command staff down through the organization, working with all the other city departments as well, getting input from them about some strategies that we can use to go after the problems in the community or address the issues in the community. That's really what at the base of kind of what our goal is. And then that will serve as a 3-year or so roadmap for us on how we deploy and use our resources. Maybe some asks where I come in and say, hey, here's some innovative things that we can do, but these are things that are outside of our current purview or what we've done in the past. Some emerging technologies, things like that. I'm really big into that, and I think if we can look for some efficiencies in that regard. But again, we're back to people-centered police work. People want access to their police department. That's the foundation of community policing. So that will be a big part of our strategic plan, but also employee development as well. And back to the culture base at the police department. What are we doing to develop our current staff that will allow us to provide the highest, most effective level of service to our community?
That sounds terrific. We often, say that, crime statistics are one thing. It's a great measurement for how we're doing in the community, but the better measurement is how do people feel? Do they feel safe? Do they trust their police department? Do they not? And is there apathy so they won't call if there's crime because they just think nothing will happen? And so I really value that piece that you've brought to the community. You're very well known in the community and highly regarded. And so starting off with that base of trust is very helpful going forward. So for you as the police chief, what does success in leading the department look like?
So you mentioned something that we typically go to that I won't go to, which is crime stats. Crime stats are a piece of the total policing picture in a community. I think success for me and any chief should be that we're well connected in the community, that our department is well connected in the community, and that people feel like they have access and a say with their police department. That's, again, the foundation of community policing. I've seen it play out over the last 30 years of my career. Success for me looks like people have trust and confidence in us. They know that we're not perfect. They know that, I've said this many times, I'll go anywhere, anytime, and talk to anybody about anything related to policing. When we make a mistake, I will be the person that stands up and says we made a mistake. And when we have the success that I believe we have had, that's our track record of connection with the community. I think our officers and our professional staff, they speak volumes when they show up and take credit for those things. So it's this sense of connection with a broad cross-section of our community, which I think we have now. There's some areas to build on with that, but it's also deeper than that because there's institutions within the community as well, from schools to the hospital district to our business community. I look for ways to kind of enhance the community connection there as well. But then the big part of this as well, and I'm looking at a couple of the ladies that help us with this, is the overall city team. There's a lot of things that we do in policing across the 24/7, 365 schedule that touch a lot of the other city departments as well. And I look for building opportunities there with relationship and actually helping kind of solve these things as teams together. So it's really connection, back to people-centered, but you've also got to pay attention to the numbers because the numbers do tell whether or not you're actually impacting crime and people's sense of safety in the community.
Yeah, agreed. And thanks for touching on that collaboration piece. For me as city manager, that's very important. that we work together collectively. For public safety, I know that you don't do it alone. Touch on, if you will, and kind of expand on that sort of symbiotic relationship we have in our public safety with other organizations. And I'll even use internally, for example, traffic. You do traffic enforcement, but there's other components of city leadership, if you will, that impacts traffic safety in the community, the design and education of traffic controls and roadways and so forth. Explain how that all kind of interrelates to being successful in your role.
Yeah, so nothing we do is alone in policing. So we literally rely on roads that are maintained by Public Works, signals that are maintained by traffic engineering. So this is a great one in regards to traffic. We're historically an older city. Some of the roadway designs go back to the beginning of this being a city. So we have the kind of the 3 E's of, when we call it the 3 E's, which is education, engineering, and enforcement. Those are kind of the 3 legs that hold up the stool, so to speak, of traffic safety in the city. So education, meaning we take advantage of every opportunity through schools, through our online platforms, through our social media, with other city departments, parks and recreation, to do as much education and outreach as we can. In addition to that, we work very closely with our traffic engineering department to address signage issues, to address roadway engineering issues, and of course the component that we're uniquely situated to handle is the enforcement side of that, which isn't always great for people when they have the enforcement, but it is a component that helps keep our roadways as safe as possible. And so when you look at any of the complex problems that are police are addressing in 2025, there's always a couple collaborative partners that we're working with on these to try to come up with the best possible solution that provides safety for our entire community.
Yeah, terrific. I appreciate you explaining that. You recently rolled out an equestrian unit.
We did.
We call them our mounted patrol unit or mounted enforcement unit. They serve a variety of purposes. Tell us a little bit about that. Why in 2025 are we adding a program like this? How is that program going to benefit the community? Who funds it? How does everything work?
Yeah, so it is actually a great opportunity first and foremost for community engagement. So the horses scare me a little bit. They're a little big. They get close. But most people, the broad majority of people that are out there that come into contact with them love them. It's a conversation piece that allows our officers to really engage with our community, talk about the program, talk about kind of what they do out there. But in addition to that, they do provide a unique style of safety for big public events. So we've been using these for many years. In my entire career, we've used them at the fair. Big area that allows the horses can get and move and maneuver. They have a higher sight of visibility that helps them address issues when they pop up. But really, it's just a combination of great community engagement along with an enforcement component that, quite frankly, most of the time is very non-threatening and just very engaging with the community. It's funded through our existing budget at the police department, and then we're looking into some kind of nonprofit options moving forward, where much like our canine program is funded, probably 95% of that is funded by the community. We're looking for some opportunities for that with the mounted unit as well.
Mm-hmm. And the horses are owned by the officers?
Yes, that's a requirement that they have their own. They have their own horses. They go through extensive training. They're actually signed off by certified instructors before we'll actually use them in the field. So yes, it is their own. Much of what they do is kind of out of their own pocket, so to speak. It's not really funded heavily by the police department or the city's budget at all.
That's terrific. I think we all are looking forward to seeing them in action around the community. And I've personally seen some of the horses. They're very friendly. They enjoy being touched, and and the officers are very friendly as well. I don't think they like being touched.
They don't, but they don't mind the horses. That's true.
Right.
That's a good point.
So a couple fun things: coffee or tea?
Oh, I used to say cut me and I bleed coffee. I worked shift work for so many years, so coffee will always be my favorite caffeinated beverage.
This is a little bit of a loaded question. Donut or bagel?
Have you ever had a 4-cheese bagel from Bagel Rock?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't eat either one very often, but about once a year I'll stop by there and grab some for the family. Those things are amazing.
They are that, indeed. Favorite place to relax or enjoy a meal?
I would say relax is probably the better one of the two. You know this about me, but I once a week try to get about a 2.5-hour solo mountain bike ride in somewhere in our local foothills. There is something that is very rejuvenating about being in nature. It's quiet, it's me, my mountain bike, and a steep trail, and it helps kind of clean out the brain and just make the world make sense. So I would say that's my relaxation.
A little bit of refocus time.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's something the community would be surprised to learn about you beyond your mountain biking?
Yeah, so this is something that people are shocked. So I really believe in a high level of engagement with people. Clearly, you and I have had these talks about my role as assistant chief, and now especially as chief, is really to connect with the community, high level relationships that people are really comfortable reaching out to me. I go anywhere and talk to anybody at any time. And I'm that way at the police department as well. I believe in management by walking around. I'm constantly engaging with people. I think when people know that they're connected to you and they know that you care, you can develop a relationship and high levels of trust internally and externally. But here's the funny thing, and probably only my wife will know this. I'm actually a really quiet guy away from work. I have a very small core group of friends. My brother, who's been my best friend since I was basically born 51 years ago. My other friend, Randy, who was actually a Simi Valley police officer. We've been friends since I was born. My small group is just that. It's my small group of confidants, and I'm not a real social, get out there and just do a lot of things kind of guy. So people are shocked to hear that about me. But that's kind of how I've always been. So,
yeah, and I think you said this well, in that you enjoy being out in the community and connecting with people and hearing about what's going on. I just saw you at a fundraiser gala for, and I say gala, it was for the Salvation Army over the weekend, and so you were there representing the city, the police department, giving back to the community by showing your support there. But I think that as people, for the few that don't know you, as they get to know you better, they'll see that that's just a piece of who you are. You do enjoy that part of the job. And
I do very much so.
And I think it makes you more credible as a leader, and also gives you a better view of what's happening. You really hear from folks what's going on, how they're feeling about your officers, and it allows you to make some course corrections.
Absolutely.
Before problems develop. So Chief, we talk about how citizens feel in the community. One of their top concerns that we hear over and over again is related to the homeless population. It's always been a big deal in Ventura. We're a coastal community. We've got a laid-back vibe. It's a good place to be homeless. Unfortunately, we have drug problems and mental health problems that fuel that that population. Ventura does it really well, from my perspective. Tell me about your perception on the police department's role and how it fits in with that broader approach that the city has to addressing the homeless population in town.
Yeah, this is definitely something we've heard a lot from the community on, and this idea of crime stats being low, but the concept of not always feeling safe in public spaces because of the homeless criminal vagrancy issues that oftentimes result in bad behaviors in public, but also sometimes low-level crimes. So we have been really innovative in that regard, going back well over a decade now. We were the first agency and city in the county to implement a specific homeless team. We call it the Patrol Task Force. We oftentimes hear it called to PTF, we just shorten it. They are a collaborative group that's out 7 days a week. They work specifically within this population, focusing on some of the problem areas that we have in our community, most often in public spaces, everything from the river bottom and some of our trails to some like the downtown area, our business districts, things like that. They are a very collaborative group. They work with our community development group in regards to providing services. We have backpack medicine. That's something that they go out and they assist a county team in going out and providing services. We are very engaged with the local shelter opportunities that exist for people that are in acute situations that need and want help. In addition to that, they're very engaged with the overall county as well, behavioral health, getting them out in the field, trying to get them connected to services. It's a very comprehensive program. We also do have a very big enforcement component of that as well. Again, we're uniquely situated to provide that portion of it. But again, we spend a lot of time in the field, out in the community, trying to address those problems with a really broad, comprehensive approach that emphasizes services, but also has an enforcement component to it as well.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you recognizing that. And I know you'll continue to focus on creative ways in which to address that population and help our residents feel safe when it comes to the homeless community.
Yep.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners?
A couple quick things. So this is my shout out. I'm going to say her name because I always try to make her blush, but Emily works with us really closely on our civic engagement side of things. And I always want to put a plug in for all the great stuff that she does. She runs all of our social media accounts. If you haven't done so, please connect with us in that regard. We have an amazing platform on Facebook, Instagram as well. We do a great job of connecting with that. And the last thing I'll say is this, there's a ton of community support here for the police department. I would say, my predecessors always said it was at least 10 to 1. My experience in the last 6-7 weeks is like maybe 30-40 to 1, that we actually have people complimenting the level of policing services that they get. So I know I'm slightly biased as the chief, but one of the things I want to encourage the community to do is continue to engage with us. We do an event in the public about every 3 days on average here. So if you haven't taken the time to come out to one of those events, we broadcast them on all of our platforms. We're all over social media with that. But if you see a cop, say hi to a cop. It actually makes a difference. When they're driving around, they like to feel the appreciation from the community. So if you get a chance to walk up and say hi and say thank you, that would be greatly appreciated. So
yeah.
they really do love that.
Yeah, well, thank you for your time today, Chief. Thank you for tuning in. For additional episodes, please check out our website, cityofventura.ca.gov/Ventura Voices. We'd love to share our information with you and let you know what's going on here in the city of Ventura.